Have you ever felt judged for loving spicy romance or judged for not wanting spice? Have you ever searched for a romance without explicit scenes and wondered why the most common term used is clean? Here's why that's a problem. Clean is a binary word. If one thing is clean, then that means the other thing is dirty. So if we're calling romance with no spice clean, what does that make everything else? Look, we've been fighting for literal decades to prove that romance novels aren't shameful. By calling romance novels without spice clean, we are completely undermining our entire argument. Let me be crystal clear. If you love spicy romance, you are not reading dirty books. I love them myself. I read them, I write them, I honestly prefer them. Look, I don't mind romance with closed doors or absolutely no spice. It's just not what I want when I want a romance novel. I love the release, the passion. It's that inevitable moment in the story where two or more people can't take it anymore and they finally crash together after pages and pages of flirting, will they, won't they, and yearning. And I will die on the hill that spicy romance is a valid and incredible part of literature, and that what we read and write is not dirty or bad, shameful or wrong. My kitchen counter is clean. My bathroom is clean. My floor, well, my floor is a mess because of my dog, but you get the point. Clean describes something that can become dirty but is fixed. It does not describe a relationship with no sex, and it shouldn't be the default term for it. Because spice isn't dirty, sex isn't dirty, and people who read it or write it aren't dirty either. So we need a word that doesn't create that binary. And speaking of the disrespect that the romance genre gets in general, I am planning a video all about that, so hit subscribe so you don't miss that. But right now, let's talk about the other side. So what if you don't want spice? Let me tell you right here, right now, that does not make you a prude. It does not make you any less of a romance reader or writer. Ace people exist. People still deconstructing their purity culture exist. People still within purity culture exist. And everybody deserves a romance story for them. And that's completely valid. But here's the thing. The market is flooded with romance after romance with explicit scenes that make even me blush. So we do need to talk about the fact that it is nearly impossible to find romances without spice in it. You literally have to type clean romance into the search bar in order to truly find anything. And if that term makes you uncomfortable, too bad. That's the system. Imagine if the only way to find a vegetarian recipe, you had to type in no murder food. You'd be like, can we use a different term, please? Why is it different for romance? So what terminology should we use instead of clean romance to indicate that this book is going to be safe for people who don't want spicy romance? Let me give you some ideas. We'll walk through the ones that almost work, but not quite. And I'll give you the ones that I think are proper contenders, plus the one that I think works the best. First, let's discuss sweet romance. So this one usually indicates that the romance is cute. Think those terrible but amazing Hallmark, Lifetime, Netflix, holiday rom-coms that come out every year. However, this still creates a weird binary. It basically says anything outside of that subgenre is not sweet. I have certainly read sweet and spicy romance in the past, so it doesn't really work. Then there's emotional romance, which this one also feels kind of weird to me because what's more emotional than sex? I get it. It's about the emotional connection versus the physical one. Fully understand what that means. But that's actually what I prefer in my romance novels anyway. I want them to have an emotional connection before they jump in the sack together, unless the whole point is hooking up and then developing the emotional connection and then jumping back into the sack. You get my point. Either way, this one kind of misses the mark as well. So let's talk about the proper contenders for the default term. Fade to black is how Hollywood has handled most spicy scenes in the past, where you have two people making out and they're kind of maybe undressing each other, and then bam, we cut to the next morning, either they're cuddling in bed or they're making breakfast. There is no mystery as to what happened before we cut to our post-coital scene. But for those that don't want to read those explicit words or read about the actual act itself, it's a little bit more comfortable. Then there's closed door romance. This is pretty similar to Fade to Black, but it keeps everything physical aside aside from some chaste kisses and G-rated cuddling behind closed doors. You can easily get away with thinking that they never have sex at all. This is honestly my favorite contender for the term, and only just because you can kind of infer whatever makes you most comfortable. Then there's simply low spice or no spice romance. It's the most descriptive, and as somebody who's been learning a lot more about SEO, also better for that. At the end of the day, I don't think there's any one right answer to this question, but I do think any of these are way better than calling it clean. I know you came for some book recommendations, and I've got you on that. Here are some highly recommended books that have little to no spice. The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. This is a bodyguard romance, and it is closed door. It's actually the reverse of most bodyguard romances that you've ever read or seen before, because it actually has the woman be the bodyguard to the superstar actor that she has to protect against his stalker. It leads them to a fake dating premise to hide him from his stalker in his home state of Texas. Then there's Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This is a rivals to lover story with very little spice in it. It's a historical fantasy romance about two rival journalists who connect through magical typewriters during a war between gods. Then there's The Rom-Commers, also by Catherine Center. This one is also rivals to lovers. It centers around a struggling screenwriter who is hired to write a terrible rom-com script for a cynical screenwriter, and so she has to end up teaching him about love, which she ends up doing a little too well. And this book has absolutely no spice in it. And finally, we have It's a Love Story by Annabelle Monaghan. I'm really sorry if I mispronounced that. Anyway, this centers around a former teen TV star who has turned into a Hollywood producer, and she has to fake her way through a lie to get her first project greenlit. It makes her spend a week with her one-time crush turned pompous cinematographer. Here's the big takeaway from this video. There is no wrong way to read romance. If you want spice, great. If you don't want spice, also great. The only thing that needs to change is the term in which we use to describe romance without spice, because clean isn't just a word, it's a judgment, and the romance community is way better than that. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think we should call it? Drop your preferred term in the comments below. I would love to know what resonates with you. And if you have a great fade to black or closed door romance that you love, drop that down in the comments as well. I'm always building my TBR. If you made it this far, thank you for caring about words as much as I do. I post every Thursday. We talk about romance and tropes, and occasionally my cringy millennial side comes out to play. So subscribe if you want more of that energy. I'd love to have you here. I'll see y'all next Thursday.